Welcome back to the MSP Growth Podcast, where we get real about growing a business that actually works, not just on paper, but also in the real world with real people and the occasional real problems you didn't see coming. I'm Heather Johnson, founder of Gozynta and someone who accidentally became a global business owner. Today's guest, Travis, welcome. First things first, what's one thing that gives you instantly away as a not local when you go abroad?
Heather, that's such a good question because so often my MO, especially through airports and foreign land, is just to blend in. It's like, how do I just blend in? But it's hard. It's real hard because we have these signature looks, my glasses, my so folks obviously know that if I'm in a Latin country, that probably not from Latin America. So ways that I blend in are really just to observe, to see what's going on. And I think that's the biggest way that you can become part of another culture, another country, is just to see how things are done and take note of those, the little things, the little custom spacing and the way that people interact and engage. If people say hello a lot or make eye contact, or if they just keep their head down and keep going.
Yeah.
It's those little things that tend to give us away. But I also find those things fascinating and endearing for each country as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. When we first moved to the Netherlands, people would speak English with us immediately. And I don't even know why. Eventually, I think I started wearing different clothes and just behaving differently. And they would speak
Right.
Dutch first and then realize, oh, let me speak to English. Her Dutch is terrible. So,
But right. But it's that moment where you're all, it reminds me of traveling in France, where I'd studied a little French and all poised and I've studied up. I'm ready to use it, to engage and to buy that croissant. And the first thing out of the mouth is, what do you want? You know, in very plain English, you're like,
yes.
no, just give me the chance.
Yeah.
Just let me just have a little slice of your culture by trying to speak that language. So,
I've
um,
studied this for 3 years.
yeah.
Please let me ask for the croissant. So
So
cute.
yes, so I can understand it's a little defeating, isn't it?
Yeah.
When there's what do you want?
So both of us have started businesses in other countries that aren't
Mhm.
our own. Can you tell me the story? How did you end up doing this? Tell me about this adventure.
Yeah, myself and two other partners. One of my partners, Rich McKinnon, he's someone I've known for years and super good friend of mine. We actually met in the MSP channel, going to events together, just hanging out. He married a Colombian woman who is very well connected. She's an entrepreneur herself, but also a Colombian citizen. So she was down there about 3 years ago, and it was around Christmas time visiting her family. And she realized that there is a significant need for better cybersecurity, better IT infrastructure, better protections for people. Because at the time, banks were getting hacked and a lot of other companies were getting hacked. And she thought that, hey, I have these two people that I know and trust, Travis and Rich, who've been in the MSP channel for years now. We should bring some of this technology down to Colombia and start a company here and really help provide these services. And so it started there. And I think honestly, about maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 days later, around the beginning of January, I find myself on an airplane heading right to Bogota. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah, and from there, took all the steps to set up a business, to get established. And I'll tell you what, it's not as easy as just going online and creating a LLC in Delaware. Like you could do that in an evening from your own chair. Everything down there, starting a business in that another country, requires you to be in person, have it notarized, have the signatures done in person. And that whole process of starting up was tremendous. It was incredible. I think that was one thing that we underestimated of what do we need in order to actually do business here.
Yeah.
That became quite a process. And again, I'm not a fluent Spanish speaker. My partner Rich is not. So we rely so heavily on Jessica to get these things done and make sure that the right papers are filed and that we have the right certificates and cite what we can do. So that was a big struggle. because we had these people coming toward us who were like, hey, this sounds great. Folks are very favorable toward US technology and US companies. And they saw that as a way to help. Everybody recognizes the problem there. With that, the people are coming to us asking for help. And we're just at a point where we can't quite help you yet because we need to get this one certificate and we need this. And when you're starting a business, you need to get to that revenue point as soon as possible. So yeah, so that was probably one of the largest struggles in the beginning of setting up our company there in initially.
Yeah, yeah, it is such a difference. And it's hard to get to that point where you assume you've been in business a long time. I've been in a business a long time, and it's, oh, I know how to do this. I got this down.
Right.
And then it's, what? Oh, you need this. What is this? How do I? It's just, and then it's another thing, and it's another thing, and it's, it can be very frustrating, but very rewarding also. But then you also have doing business with a different culture. And that's where Hofstede's research that really helped me out.
Mhm.
And it really breaks down cultural differences into 6 dimensions. It's not really
Yeah.
perfect, but it's really useful. And just like
Yeah.
the short version, there's power distance. Do
Mhm.
people expect a hierarchy or is everyone equal?
Yeah.
Individualism versus collectivism. Is it about
Yeah.
me or is it about we? Then there's masculinity and femininity. Do
Mhm.
people value assertiveness or a consensus? There's also uncertainty avoidance. Do they like rules or do they want a flexible environment? Long term
Right.
orientation. Are they future focused or are they about the now?
Yeah.
And then the last one is indulgence versus restraint. Do people let loose or do they hold back?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
probably listeners can see where the US would fit in some of these pretty easily. Where I am now in the Netherlands, they really score low on power distance, high
Mm.
on individualism, and very low on uncertainty avoidance, which means tell it to me straight, but let me do it my way. And please don't waste my time with fuzzy answers. They are so direct. So
Yeah.
something I needed to get used to
Yeah.
was, yeah, you are a very loud American. And it's
It's
just, it's not meant to be insulting to me. It's just telling
it's just
me I
this
am
is
a
how
loud
we see it.
American.
Exactly.
That's just how
Which
it
is
is.
which is totally fair. Some of those things are you find them refreshing. You're like, oh, this is something that, especially when you're interpreting a new culture. And those things you can find refreshing and to really start to appreciate those traits, especially like the direct and decisiveness. Like those are
Mm,
things that like I personally really appreciate.
yeah.
But it's those other more fuzzy ones where, that don't align, where if you take them out of context, you could take that personally and
Yes.
suddenly realize, oh, wait, what did I do? And I think there's a trap in that. And instead of looking at it from, look, this is their operating system. This is how they operate. This is a generalized kind of overview of how this culture operates. You put it in that context. And again, back to my first comment of you can learn and pivot and observe and really say, oh, okay, so that's how then I'm going to come at that with this from this way so that I can be more understood. Because
Right.
ultimately, we're all just trying to be better understood. We
Right.
want to connect. We want that to know that the people that we're talking with are receiving what we're putting out.
Absolutely. And it's not just businesses that are abroad. Netflix requires everyone to read Erin Meyer's culture map because
Mhm.
you're working with different cultures all the
Yeah.
time. And just understanding that if you have a Dutch person, they're going to tell it like it is. If you have somebody with an Indian background, you need to be like, they're going to back off and let you, even if they have a good idea. And you need to make
Mhm.
sure that they feel comfortable to be able to say their idea. So
Yeah.
having that kind of context is really great. Now, I looked
Yeah.
up Colombia, and Colombia scores high on power distance, low on individualism, and
Mhm.
high on uncertainty avoidance, which what I translated was respect the hierarchy,
Yeah.
build real relationships before business, and
Mhm.
keep things structured and predictable. So trust grows from connection, not just competence. Does that sound
I
familiar at all?
that absolutely resonates because so many of the meetings that we've had, before we actually meet with someone that we really need to meet with, or that we a lead or a contact. There is so much work that happens ahead of that to set that meeting up. And it usually involves someone else who orchestrates that meeting. So a mutual friend, so someone that we know and someone that are the person that we want to know knows. And that person becomes a third party validator. And the person who, let's say we're meeting with a police general or something like that, and or a military general. And so what happens is the person that organizes the meeting is the one who's vetting, basically vetting, saying, is this person, us in this case, worthy of this meeting? Can they help this
Mhm.
person? Are they trustworthy? Are they someone that I would do business with? Because if there's someone that I would do business with, then that gets relayed to the person we get to meet. So there's a lot of work that goes ahead of having any, especially the higher level meeting, the more connections, the more familiarity that we must have. So those tangential circles of people who are related, you have to have 2 degrees of separation there. So
Right.
if
Right.
that, yeah. But no, that resonates, absolutely resonates. I think the other thing that resonates is that what you were saying about power and orchestration, like the structure.
Yeah.
Structure means a lot in the Colombian culture, for especially working with the national police and in the corporate world. Folks hold their titles they're very proud of their titles, and they feel like they have earned those titles. And there is a great deal of respect that comes with that. In fact, if someone is a very high professional in their role, they're often referred to as doctor. So
Mm.
they are given that. It's not an educational designation, it is a respect designation.
Mm.
So saying that this is a professional in their field, they have worked for years and years to achieve this level, and we will bestow them this doctor title when introducing. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And it could be a huge faux pas to miss something like that. Would
Yeah,
be a
certainly.
huge faux
It,
pas.
yeah, yeah. But again, I think I've always found a significant amount of grace and warmth that comes from at all levels. And that's our human connection of working with people who have that familiarity with other cultures and have done work internationally. Like, they realize that yes, we are bound to make mistakes. And so by addressing someone a little off, or it's a lot like me trying to order in French. It's tolerated. I still get the croissant. Like,
Yeah.
everyone's happy about it, right? It works out. It works out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that meeting that you're talking about, and those are big meetings with government officials. It sounds like when Aaron Meyer talked in the culture map about
Mhm,
task-based versus relation-based trust.
mhm.
And it sounds like it's very much relation-based. Where in the US, we trust you if you do the job well. Not as relational as it is in Latin America or Asia. That trust comes from knowing you as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. That is a significant difference. As I think that people get a large pass on the personal side, assuming that they are performing at a very high level. If you are doing the job here in the US, we'll put up with
Put
quite
up
a
with a lot.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's even the small talk. If you think about meetings that are done, there
Mhm.
needs to be a certain amount of relationship building in meetings where used to be when I was in senior leadership in the US, I would treat meetings like a checklist. Time is money. So let's start, let's go A, B, C, D, let's get through this agenda. But in
Yeah,
some place, if you don't connect as humans first, you don't get to have a checklist because the business is not going to happen. You
right,
need to take
right.
that time to keep forming that relationship and that trust.
Yeah, it's funny so I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm in Silicon Valley a lot. And I was recently at an event where I met a number of folks from that were lived in the Silicon Valley. I won't say they're from there, but they lived in the Silicon Valley. And so that initial meeting was so abrupt. And it's, what do you do? What's your revenue? You know what? I'm like, can you at least buy me a drink first? What can we just start with maybe a couple likes and dislikes in our world? Like,
Yeah.
so it was so abrupt. And I realized that has now, because it happened multiple times, I'm like, oh, wow, this is becoming the culture of this area. And having grown up in this area, that was never the case.
Wow.
It was a lot more personable and who you are, what you're doing, where, a little more of your background and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But now I felt so sized up
Yeah.
in just the first couple sentences. It was like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. It's like,
So
are you worth talking to?
that was exactly how I took it. I was like, whoa, is that and so yeah, stepping back from that, I'm like, I understand that you're here on a mission, but at the same time, like I also am not super keen on doing work with this person because it lacks that personal connection. And that is something that's important. And I want to know the people I'm doing business with. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, we're part of a European entrepreneurial network where we actually vacation with a bunch of other entrepreneurs in Europe. And it's really interesting. We don't talk business that much, but it's really neat to just get to know people as people. Yeah, there's
yeah.
always business talk because we're always excited about talking about what we're doing, but it's
Right.
interesting to see how are they treating the waiters? How are they
Mhm.
treat because those are important factors on what their value set is. And like I need to like the person before I do business. So it is so
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's having so being in Europe, you have access to so many different cultures in I think that's one of the things that has always the United States is quite homogenized, let's face it. But Europe has maintained these enclaves of very culturally identified, like very specific cultural identifications throughout. And so it's real easy for you, I'm sure, to have people from all across Europe with very different ways of doing things and seeing things. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's something you don't get used to, knowing that
It's,
I can take a train for 45 minutes and get to Germany or take a plane for an hour and be in Spain is it's very interesting and fun to be able to experience so many cultures so quickly. It's really neat.
oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that's being on the West Coast, Europe feels very far away
Right.
since they're in summer and it feels very far away. So I keep looking for reasons and ways that I can do business in Europe, but for some reason it's just out of reach right now.
Yeah, it's not a fun plane ride. Anything over 8 hours, you don't want to be in the air in a small seat for I understand. And I think that would be for you maybe 11 hours, 12
Yeah.
hours. So yeah, no fun. No fun. I get it. I get it. So
Mm,
another shift I want to look at is leadership expectations. And this is one that I think is so interesting, especially
mm,
as a leader starting a company and then working with others. In some countries, a good leader is one who makes all the decisions and has all
mhm,
the answers. And
mhm.
in others, it's the person who empowers a team and disappears into the background and that kind of servant leader.
Yeah.
I once asked a team member for their opinion and they looked at me like, you're the boss. Why don't, and that's totally fair. I get that. But I really want to hear what people are saying to make that decision. What are your experiences with leadership and cultural style?
Yeah, I think so. We talked a little bit about that hierarchy and the respect that's earned through your title, and that hierarchy plays a large part of the this how leadership is seen and how it's delivered as well. So folks at the top are seen to call the shots, and a leader is decisive. A leader is someone who is, and again, I'm speaking for what I've observed in Latin America, but a leader is very much the last word. And it is in my company, our leadership is held by our president is a woman and she's a Colombian woman. And so to see her in meetings surrounded by folks that have gone through the military and or the national police, she is a very decisive and strong leader. And
Mm,
so when in meetings, she has a very large presence and really commands the respect of that room, which is phenomenal to watch. To that, I would say that's a big part of leadership is being seen as that decisive head, taking action, being the final word, making those hard decisions. That is your typical, I would say that is the archetype there of
mm,
leadership. And there is always collaboration that happens in the background, but the final word is always delivered by the president of the company or
Mm,
the someone at that hierarchical top. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Another thing that is interesting is how communication is so widely different across borders. And that's what we talked about before is everyone's just looking to communicate. But something about communication that really breaks it down to see where there are breakdowns.
Mhm.
Like, for example, the Netherlands is very low context. People say what they mean here. It's just very direct. It's just what
Yeah.
it is. But in high context cultures like Japan and in some parts of Latin America, people
Mhm.
expect you to read between the lines. There's
Yeah.
tone, gesture, even silence can mean more than words can. Have you ever
Yeah.
had a moment where you totally missed what was actually being said? Or maybe you don't even know the moment happened. Who knows?
With a loose grip on the Spanish language, there's a lot of things that I missed. I'm going to start right there. Okay. I think from a broader perspective of being an American, starting in a company in Latin America, it would be very hard. It'd be damn near impossible for me and even one of my American counterparts to go down there and expect that we could establish a company and really get things set up and move at the speed that we moved
Yeah.
without that cultural understanding and without being able to read and interpret and manage those types of interactions. It would be very difficult. Having our president who is a Colombian citizen and a US citizen has been tremendously helpful in especially in negotiations where information information is said, it's understood, and like you said, those nuances of we're going to wait before we respond, or this is the price they provided, but that's just the start. And then you realize, okay, negotiation, like we're gonna work up, and we're gonna go back to the higher price, and they're gonna go find budget, and then that's how it works. And it is having someone who is familiar with the culture and who can help you navigate it is so essential. And like I said, it's not like you can't do it yourself. It's that it is a fast track to moving faster and forward in doing business with other cultures. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend having that in place when you are embarking on that.
Yeah, and
So
that's invaluable. I wish we had a Jessica here in the Netherlands. We just put in a bid that was rejected for a property, and we've done it twice now. And I was thinking, as you were saying this, yeah, we really need a Jessica for these negotiations
you're
because
like,
we
what's going
still
on?
we
Right. It's
still treat them, yeah, we still treat them as Americans, and yeah,
Yeah. No, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, and again, we have these backgrounds that say this is what's worked in the past. So why wouldn't it work now
right,
going forward?
right.
And actually they've got a past as well. And they find it totally different.
It's
So
not the same.
yeah. So recognizing that is really key. Also, the way that we convey information. For me, when I'm putting together a solution and presenting it, I'm very focused on what the outcome is. I'm very
Mm,
focused on this is what we're delivering. This is the experience we're going to deliver. This is what the end result is going to be delivered. And I think that's a very American way of selling is it's telling that story of look, this is how it's going to be. Everything's going to be great. We tell the final story. And the sale is we'll get you there. That's our proposition.
yes.
And in Colombia, they really want to know how we're going to get there. And very detailed as to what steps are we going to take? What are the products? What do those products do? What are some of the technical specifications of those products and how do those implement? And so the sales process is significantly, I think, longer for a lot of solutions in Latin America than they are here in the US. And it is because there's a lot of due diligence that has to go into that of explaining the specifics and defining it and having the right people in the place to tell that technical story, to tell the process story of what's happening. And then we'll get to the sunshine and roses that we're all going to buy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Wow,
yeah,
that's so
which is
interesting. I didn't
fascinating.
realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was something that I had to learn
Mm.
because again, I love telling stories. I love being able to say, this is sell that story of this is where this is how your life will be afterwards. And then you backfill with the information you need, but completely different approach.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. Yeah. Thank you for that. To our listeners, you might not be opening an office in Bogota next month, but if you're hiring remotely or you're buying software or partnering globally, you're really in the culture game. Everyone is in culture game. And these
Yeah.
frameworks that we talked about today aren't about being fancy. They're about avoiding misunderstandings, building trust faster, and not accidentally offending your favorite vendor's project manager. So, Travis,
Absolutely.
what advice would you give to MSPs looking to expand across borders or just grow
Yeah.
more thoughtfully?
Oh, absolutely. I think, first of all, I'm going to sell Latin America here because it is such a very close cultural fit to the US. I've done a lot of work with Pro Colombia, the trade organization that has also helped sponsor Colombian companies to come here to the US and present. But there are culturally, I think there's a statistic that our Netflix are basically the highest aligned country with Colombia in the
Oh,
US. So their favorites are also our favorites. So if that says anything,
uh,
but also with the time zones, that helps significantly. And again, I think those cultural things that we talk about earlier with the way that we are collaborating, the way that we see a leadership, they are also very close. And so it makes it very easy for us to have conversations where we can both understand each other and understand where we're coming from. I think there's less friction in that as opposed to perhaps an Eastern country or even some European countries.
yeah.
There can be those frictions. So I think it's a great opportunity there, and the time zones line up, like I said. But in addition to that, there's a lot of organization in it's quite a tech hub. So if you're looking to outsource, like add more folks on your help desk, those services are already there and you don't have to go and find people. It's pretty easy to find organizations that are already doing that. And there's still a significant discount in working with that nearshore company to provide your first level help desk or even some of your more advanced project team. That infrastructure exists and it makes it real easy to plug into your organization.
Mm.
We're right now working with a company that's helping us with an AI implementation project. And again, they have the developers, they have the resources. We can give them the specs of what we're looking for, and they're building it. So it's a great extension of what I'm doing here in the US through that.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Travis, thank you so much. This conversation really made me think and laugh. And I hope it helps our audience to see that global growth isn't just about logos on a map. It's about empathy, it's about trust, and figuring out when to talk and when to really listen and observe. For everyone listening, if you liked today's episode, check out The Culture Map by Erin Meyer and Hofstede's
Yeah.
model. There is a quiz that you can take to see, which countries have which dynamics. It's really amazing. It will actually
Fascinating.
change how you work with people. I'm Heather Johnson. This is MSP Growth Podcast, and keep growing.